As an established foundation in Michigan focused on suicide prevention, what initially attracted Kevin Song to Man Therapy?
Kevin Song became aware of Man Therapy by virtue of our previous involvement and partnering with Jody Fry and her colleagues in the Healthy Man Michigan campaign that took place a few years ago here in the state. And we were approached by Jody because Kevin Song sponsors an annual conference every year. And one of the years, I believe it might have been in 2018 or 19, we had Sally Spencer Thomas come in and talk about suicide in the workplace. And I believe Jody Fry was also invited to kind of address that issue. And it really opened our eyes to this huge segment of the population that is at risk for suicide, namely, middle-aged and working men. And so it really gave us a reason to want to explore this more. And so when Jody explained the Healthy Men Michigan campaign, we were really enthused about being able to target that population and to help providers in Michigan to address the risk, to help assess men that were at risk, and then to help provide therapy and or assistance to people that were at risk for suicide. And it really started to even morph into areas beyond suicide, because I know Healthy Men Michigan and now Man Therapy really, I think, attempts to address the whole person, all the issues that are confronting men in this demographic.
You work with many organizations and leaders across the state. How do you see Man Therapy spreading throughout Michigan over the years?
There are many local coalitions and regional coalitions around the state of Michigan that also have linked to Man Therapy on their websites and in their resource areas of their online services. And I think that's a real important thing as well. We have a pretty good network of coalitions in the state of Michigan. There are many local and regional coalitions. There's another coalition is forming across the entire state called With One Voice. And Kevin Song was somewhat instrumental in conceiving the notion of a need for a statewide coalition of coalitions, so that suicide prevention advocates could speak with one voice and advocate for the kind of change that is necessary to really promote wellness and to promote prevention in an effort to develop better strategies to treat people that are suffering and who might be at risk for suicide. So in that vein, I know of many people throughout the state that are involved with One Voice, who also are actively partnering with Man Therapy. And I think that it is an important resource that can be disseminated to the general population through these local coalitions and local agencies that are promoting it.
What are some new areas or settings for suicide prevention that would be a good fit for Man Therapy, and why?
So how could I see Man Therapy being promoted in a different way? I think that Man Therapy and your team and Jody's team, and maybe they've begun this already, but I think it's important to reach out to insurance companies, health insurance companies, and number one, to point out that they don't always follow the laws of parity. They're not providing mental health services necessarily at the same level that they provide medical services. They don't really identify therapists who are qualified to provide certain kinds of care. They just kind of lump all therapists in a big bucket and then leave it up to the individual. Whereas if I want a cardiologist, I can find one on the Blue Cross registry. But if I want a therapist who deals, let's say, with family issues or marital issues or financial issues. There's no classifications for mental health therapists. They're all just kind of lumped in one bucket, and then it's up to the therapist. And oftentimes when it comes to suicide prevention, you might have a family or parents that are frantically making calls to different therapists to try to find somebody that feels qualified to deal with a crisis for their loved one. And that's something that needs to be addressed. And so I think that if we can go to insurance companies and we can advocate for something like Man Therapy, which will engage their insureds, it will provide their insureds with a vehicle and a tool to help them not only identify that they have issues, but then to use the resources that these health insurance companies have to connect those people with qualified therapists and qualified help.